Hey there, so I'm going to do a really quick review of dividing fractions by whole numbers. As you can see, this is the page you're going to be working on, and you will be doing problems 1 through 16 all, but I will solve numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 with you first, okay? All right, so when I am dividing a fraction by a whole number, the very first step is to go ahead and write this whole number as a fraction. So to do that, I'm going to keep the 3, then I'm going to put my fraction bar beneath of it and then place a 1 underneath, because 3 over 1 is still equal to 3 wholes, so it really didn't change the value. All right, after we've created that fraction, we're going to use the phrase keep, change, flip to help us figure this out. So keep means I'm going to keep the first fraction the same, so I wrote 2/4. Change means I'm going to change the division sign into a multiplication sign, so I changed that. And then flip means I'm going to use the reciprocal, so I'm going to flip my fraction, putting the bottom number on the top and the top number now on the bottom. So instead of 3 over 1, it becomes 1 over 3. Okay, all right, now we can look to see if we can cross reduce. I'm going to look at the numerator of 1 and the denominator of the other, 2 and 3, but there is no other number greater than 1 that can go into both, so I have to leave those as they are. All right, let's look at 4 and then go across to the numerator, 1. All right, once again, these do not have a factor greater than 1 that can go into both, so we're going to leave it as is. So now we can just multiply across the top and then across the bottom and see what we get. So 2 times 1 is 2, 4 times 3 gives me 12, 2/12. But this is not in simplest form. I have to ask myself, is there a factor greater than 1 that can go both into 2 and 12 evenly? Yes, since these are even numbers, I can always divide by 2 because 2 can go into any even number. So I'm going to write 2 divided by 2, and what I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom, and I'm going to use 12 divided by 2. So as you can see, I divided by the same number, 2 and 2. Then I reduce that. 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. 12 divided by 2 gives me 6. 1 over 6 is in simplest form because there's no other factor greater than 1 that could go into 1 or 6 evenly. All right, let's look at number 2. We have 1/5 divided by 8. So once again, the first step is to make it into a fraction. So I'm going to put my fraction bar over 1. Then I'm going to use keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep the first fraction the same, 1/5. I'm going to change this division sign into multiplication, and I'm going to flip this number using the reciprocal. So I'm going to put the 1 on top and the 8 on the bottom, so 1/8. Now I'm going to see if I could cross reduce looking at the opposite numerator and the across to the opposite denominator. But no, I'm not able to cross reduce those numbers, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply across the top and then multiply across the bottom. So 1 times 1 gives me 1, 5 times 8 is going to give me 40, and 1/40 is going to be in simplest terms. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and look at number 3. I have 1/6 divided by 6 over 1. So I'm going to use keep, change, flip after I've already made this into a fraction. Okay, by placing it over 1. So I'm going to keep the first fraction, 1/6. I'm going to change the sign into a multiplication sign, and I'm going to flip this using the reciprocal, 1 over 6. So I took the 1 from the bottom, put it on the top, took the 6 from the top, put it on the bottom. That's the reciprocal. Now I'm going to multiply across the top and then across the bottom since there's nothing to cross reduce. Okay, all right, so we're going to do 1 times 1 gives me 1, and 6 times 6 gives me 36. So 136 would be my answer, and it is in simplest terms. All right, looking at number 4, we have 5/8 divided by 6 wholes. So once again, we're making this into a fraction first. I put my fraction bar over 1. Now I'm going to keep, change, flip. So keep the first fraction, 5 over 8. Change the sign to multiplication. I'm going to flip this and use the reciprocal, so 1 over 6. Now I'm going to see if there's anything I can cross reduce just to make it simpler in the long run. So I'm looking at the numerator and then across to the opposite denominator, 5 and 6. Is there any number that could go into both evenly, greater than 1? No. 5 and 6 are going to remain as they are. All right, looking at the other denominator and across to the opposite numerator. Okay, I cannot cancel those or reduce them. I'll have to leave those as they are because there's no other factor greater than 1 that could go into both. So I have 1 and 8 still. Now, since I cannot cross reduce, I'm going to just go ahead and multiply. So I'm going to multiply across the top for my numerator and multiply across the bottom for the denominator. 5 times 1 gives me 5. 8 times 6 gives me 48. 5 over 48. This is also in simplest terms because there is no other number greater than 1 that could go into 5 and 48 evenly. So I'm going to leave it as it is with 5 over 48. All right, so thank you so much. I hope that was helpful. So the main thing to remember is you have to first change this whole number into a fraction. Then you can use the strategy keep, change, flip, okay, to rewrite it. See if you can cross reduce. If not, go ahead and just multiply across the top and then multiply across the bottom and make sure your answer is in simplest terms. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.